Hello families, this is Miss Gaby from Excel and I'm here to talk to you about writing. If you came to school and picked up an activity bag, you're going to find some wonderful writing tools in that bag, but you will also find this little tip sheet. This tip sheet is fantastic as it has lots of information and advice about things that you can do at home to help your child become a stronger writer. Now, let's talk about it for a second. So, what are early writing skills? Early writing skills are things such as knowing how to use pencils, crayons, markers, and other writing tools to draw and do some writing. Drawing pictures that express ideas and stories. Yes, drawing is a very important part of writing. When children draw stories and ideas, they develop this wonderful creativity that makes them feel like writers, because they are. Knowing how to write some letters in their first name, knowing how to use letters to create simple words to express ideas, and knowing that writing is a way to communicate with others. All of those are early writing skills. Now, when do they learn? Children usually learn writing skills during their preschool years. And writing is more than just pencil and paper. It works kind of like a loop. And you will see why. Reading experiences help with writing development, and writing development helps with reading experiences. Children see and interact with print in books, magazines, signs, and even grocery lists. Your child will begin to show an interest in writing words as they learn to recognize and write some letters. Now, why is early writing important? An early goal is to help children understand that spoken language can be written down and then read. Developing early writing skills is very important for later reading success. The more language and early writing experiences your child has, the more prepared your child will be for learning how to read and write in kindergarten. Now, how do they learn? Children learn about writing by watching others and when they are given the opportunities to write. Now, remember, writing requires fine motor skills that children develop over time. You can help your child develop fine motor skills with pegs, string beans, Play-Doh, building with Legos, and other hands activities. Now, why is it so important for us to help your children develop those fine motor skills? Because the way that our body develops is from the core, the center of the body, out. So first we strengthen our core, and as we grow, we start developing more strength in our arms and then our fingers, for example. So when your child sometimes says, my hand hurts after drawing or writing for a long time, they're not lying. Their hand really hurts. But the best way that you can help your child with that is by giving them lots of things to do with their hands, such as playing with Play-Doh. Playing with Play-Doh is a great thing that you can do with your child to help their little muscles become nice and strong so that they can write with confidence. Now, what can I do to help my child? Well, show your child that writing is everywhere for starters. Write and draw as much as possible with your child. Keep a notepad and pencils or crayons in the car. Encourage your child to copy street signs, store logos, or even help you write shopping lists. Encourage your child to use drawings to express ideas and tell stories. Help your child write their name, familiar words, and even some simple sentences. Why not? Some children can start to write sentences at this age. Now, I'm going to give you guys a challenge. Create a writing box. You can include things such as paper, pencils, markers, crayons, chalk, dry erase boards, markers, scissors, glue, stamps, clipboards, or anything else that can be used for writing or drawing. Remember to make writing fun, and you see that your children will really enjoy it. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know where is my child in the journey of becoming a writer? So I'm going to show you this sheet that should be in your package too. This sheet explains the different stages of writing for preschoolers. Now, let's take a moment and take a closer look at this sheet. Let's take a look at the writing stages of a preschooler. Now, these writing stages go in a certain order from 1 to 6, and children cannot skip any of the stages. They all go through this. So they all go through every single one of the stages to get to the 6th stage, which is the ideal, ready for kindergarten stage. Now, I am going to say this, and I cannot stress it enough. If your baby is not on number 6, don't worry about it. They'll get there. The best thing that you can do is to help them continue to develop whatever stage they're on so that they can move on to the next stage. So even if your child is in stage number 1, your child can get to that stage number 6 with a little bit of encouragement. So stage number 1 is drawing and scribbling. Is when a child draws and scribbled lines and circles. Now, these are not just like your child grabbed a pencil and started hitting a page. These are scribbles that make sense. As you can see, this scribble is done all together, and it looks like the child never lifted the pencil. That means that the child is starting to learn how to have control over their scribble, over what they're writing. Then we have stage number 2, which is pictures. In the case of this, you can see that there is a picture that the child drew. And when the teacher asked, what did you draw? He's like, this is my sister. He's drawing pictures that look like something that have meaning for him. Then in stage number 3, you can see that children start to understand that writing is separate from pictures. So in this case, the child makes a drawing and then write some scribbles on the right of the drawing that, according to the child, he's told the teacher that it says a flower for my mom. So there he drew the flowers and then wrote some scribbles saying a flower to my mom. For him, those scribbles mean a flower to my mom, which is wonderful because even though that does not look like any kind of writing, they understand that it is separate from the flower. And not only that, but in his mind, he knows that this sentence, a flower for my mom, has different words. So he's written them separately. Then the child writes shapes and lines that look like letters. That's stage number 4. In stage number 4, you can see that the child is either scribbling lines that are together that look as if they were a word, or you can see that at the bottom, the child has started to make symbols that could either resemble letters or numbers. And in the case of this child, he wrote a note for daddy. Then children start using what they know. In the case of this child has written the word macaroni. Now, if you can see, he's used all sorts of letters and numbers and just kind of put them together to write a word that he knows. Now, these letters and numbers do not spell macaroni by any means, but he's used what's familiar to him to try to express that word that he's trying to tell us. And the best way for him to do that is by using those letters and numbers that he already knows how to write. And then finally, stage 6, ready for kindergarten stage, is when the child writes sounds that they hear in words. Like, let's say, for example, the first word is cat. The child wrote the letter K because they heard that sound of the letter C for cat. That sounds the same as the letter K. So for them, that's how you would write cat. Or baby, they heard that B sound and they hear it twice. So it's baby. And then finally, they have I love you, which they wrote the letter I. And then they thought, oh, how do I write love? Ooh, yep, that's the sound. So that must be the letter of how I write love. And then they wrote the letter U because, you know, U, the long vowel sound, makes the sound of the word you the same as, that is the same name as the word that they're trying to write. So they make sense of that. And they think that's how you write I love you. All of the stages are fantastic. Remember, if your child is at any given stage, they're on great track and they're on track to become writers. Just continue to provide them with some support and you will see that your kiddos will do fantastic. Now, it's important for you to understand that all these stages are good stages for your child to be in. Some of them might be at that very first stage, and some of them might be at that last stage already. But really, writing is difficult for children, and it's important for you to understand that the stages come in a certain order and that they can't skip any stage. It is very important for your child to go through every single stage of writing development. So now, do you have any idea how difficult it is for your child to write? Well, if you're wondering, I'm going to help you understand today. If you look into your activity bag, you will find some very fun stuff. First, you will find a pencil that looks just like this. It's pretty big, huh? And now I want you to grab one of these index cards. If you don't have this with you, pause this video and grab it. And now that you have it, let's do an activity together. Now, I want you to grab the pencil with your non-dominant hand, meaning if you write with your right hand, grab it with your left, for example. And I want you to grab your index card and put it on your head. Now I want you to grab your non-dominant hand and I'm going to ask you guys to draw the face of a cat. Let's do it together. Okay. Well, my face of the cat is done. Now I'm going to ask you to write your name. Okay, I'm doing it. Ugh, it's starting to feel rough. Well, now grab your card and look at it. What do you see? This does not look like a cat, and that does not look like my name. This actually looks a lot like we see preschoolers do, right? This might look like something that your child made. Mine looks pretty rough. I can tell you, there are preschoolers that do a way better job than I. You know why this was so hard? Well, number one, because we're not used to this giant pencil. Your children are just learning how to use writing utensils as well. And then it's because we were trying to figure out where to do our writing so that it stayed in the card. Once I started writing and I tried to put my name under the cat, I felt like I was writing on my hair already. I was running out of space. Children have to deal with learning how to use writing utensils, learning how to deal with spacing issues, and other things when they are experiencing early writing. Except, even though we did it in our heads, it's just as hard for your kiddos to do it right in front of them. Writing can be very challenging, so let's talk about some ways in which you can help your little ones write better. If you look at your bag, you are going to find some other things. For example, you're going to find this dry erase board. This dry erase board is really great. It comes with a dry erase marker that has an eraser at the top, so children can draw and write and practice their writing on this board over and over again because they can just use it and erase it later. And in the back of it, it has two magnets so that you guys can stick it in your fridge or in some other metal surface or magnetic materials. You're also going to find a wonderful book. The name of the book is Click, Clack, Moo, Cows That Type. And I am going to recommend that you read this with your child and that you take a look at the bookmark that we've put there because it has some fantastic tips on how you can use this book to teach your child some writing skills. You will also find this little booklet. And as you can see, this booklet does not have very much of anything that's very special. It's just a simple booklet with a color cover and plenty of pages for your child to write on. Now, the reason why we're giving you something simple is because we want children to understand that they don't need a fancy notebook or journal or book of any sort to do some writing. They can grab some papers, just fold them up together and make their own little booklets. And finally, we're giving you some color pencils so that children can write and draw and just have a lot of fun with these pencils. As you can see, they're thin pencils. We're no longer giving them those thicker, easier to grab pencils, and it's because we want these thin ones to help them develop some of those fine motor skills. Well, now that we talked about writing, I hope you enjoyed these activities with your children at home. Don't forget to stay with us next for our read aloud.